It's a numbers game. It goes back to when I used to have to find a date to the dance in 6th grade. I knew if I asked 6 girls, I'd get at least one to say yes. It's a numbers game in real estate as well. 99 out of 100 people do not need my low discount offer, just like in houses, same thing.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Brent Bowers. What's going on, man?
Eat, sleep, invest. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing much, man. Glad to be here.
Down there in sunny Florida.
Yeah, it's a nice day. We had a bunch of rain yesterday, so it's a beautiful day today.
I remember when I was down in Florida, too. You guys get like rain and it comes in and stops versus in Pittsburgh, it's here for 3 days.
Oh, no, I would hate that. I like that it's just like 20 or 30 minutes it goes away and we can go get back to it.
Right, that's cool. So, hey, Brent, why don't you give everyone a little bit of background on what you do and how you got into real estate?
Yeah, so I'm a land investor. I'm a passive income land investor. I really do this for lifestyle freedom. I didn't get into this to get rich. However, it was definitely a byproduct. Really, I was running from a problem. I was really just trying to quit my 9-to-5 job, which was the military. I was always gone, always away, actually training up for that 3rd combat deployment. And I just was desperately searching for answers. And I found land. I was actually messing around with houses. I was trying to buy all those dirty old stinky cat pee houses and flip them because it was really cool. Like I did a few of those and then lost a bunch of money doing those and just really built my land portfolio up. And it's amazing how many people don't have anything to do with land. So I get so many leads and deals for free all the time. And I'm here to talk about it. Hopefully I can, encourage your audience, other wholesalers, house flippers to, stop passing by all this gold.
And that's interesting. So you started with the single families and then switched to land. Like what was that transition like and why'd that happen?
It was a long transition. I'll tell you, my first house was in 2007, right before the whole big crash. And, I was a big quitter in 2009. I was like, I threw in the towel. I was like, I can't do this. I went from having a business to getting my real estate license to buying a rental property like a week after I got my real estate license, put a tenant in it. Tenant stopped paying. I was trying to do more real estate deals, ended up basically not able to even afford my rent anymore. So I was kind of homeless there for a little while. Ended up having to move in with my wife's parents. So that was extremely humbling. Joined the military, took a little break until about 2013 when they sent me to college and I bought the house next door to the campus. I was renting out the rooms. I guess, someone made the term called house hacking. I didn't even know what that was back then, but I was making money, creating equity, bought another rental, then a triplex. And then I looked and I'm like, oh my God, I'm in so much debt. And things kept breaking and air conditioners and furnaces and foundations. And I was like trying to wholesale houses to pay it all down. And I just racked up a ton of money on credit cards. And, all these things were happening at once. And I'm like, I'm preparing for that 3rd deployment now. And I was just like, I've got to find a better way to do this because I am like miserably failing still from 2007 till about 2015. So I had a really long journey. Like everyone's like, man, it took me 3 months to make 25 grand on real estate. I'm like, why didn't that happen to me? It took me so long. And then I heard this guy on a podcast flipping land. And I'm like, I've never heard this before. And he was like doubling his money overnight. And I was like, if I can get half of those results, I will be happier than heck and I can quit my job. So I just started mailing landowners that were tax delinquent and deals started happening for me. And then I built it up and really I fell into it on accident as far as the seller financing. I was selling it via seller financing because I didn't think the land was that valuable, but I thought maybe someone will pay me payments for it. And I got to almost like $9 grand a month. And I was like, I am home free. I'm financially free. So I put in my packet to get out of the military and I just have been building it ever since.
That's solid. So failing and moving in with the in-laws, that had to hurt.
It did. Thank God they were amazing people. But I mean, 4 adults and a child should not live in a 900 square foot house with one bathroom. It was really awkward. And I went from owning my own house, then renting a house and then moving in with my in-laws, then joining the military. I had a humbling experience for several years there.
Yeah. And you know what? It sucks getting punched in the face like that. But I always look back at my failures too. I'm like, it's what makes you what you are now, and you learn from them. But it sucks when it's happening.
Yeah, it does. And it definitely, and I don't look at them as failures anymore. I just see them as part of steps on the journey. Like that had to happen or I wouldn't be here today. Honestly, I was running from a problem in 2016 when I started building that land business. I was scared to death history was going to repeat itself. My first marriage didn't work out because I was always gone, always away. And here I am preparing to leave again for another year. This time, another marriage. This time, children were involved. And I was like, no way. I've got to figure out something today. And I desperately searched for answers. Thank God we had podcasts. I read the 4-Hour Work Week, literally two or three times. I think it was 3 times. And I just got rhinoceros grit. There's a reason why I have a rhino behind me on my wall. And I look at it all day long because we got to have 3-inch thick skin. We got to take the torpedoes and just charge.
Yeah, that's so true. Anyone doing anything uncomfortable and change, and you're going to deal with it. You got to have that thick skin like Brent's saying here. Are you flipping the land too? Are you keeping it and doing passive, or what do you have going on there?
Both, actually. So my first several, I just flipped them, and then I started assigning the contracts. Well, actually, I take that back. My first one, I flipped it. My second one, I seller financed. My third one, I assigned the contract. And I just kept trying out all these disposition methods of selling the land. And it was just, I finally built up that nest egg or those passive incomes coming in of about $9,000 a month. And I was like, okay, I think this is the best strategy. So I went for trying to do more of those. And then I started charging interest and note service fees and documentation fees. And it was totally turned into an absolute cash cow. Sometimes I get more for the land. I get more interest, literally my buyer paying me in interest than I sell the land for. And let me explain what I mean by that. If you look at a 30-year mortgage, $200,000 mortgage at 6% interest, if you pay that thing for 30 years, $1,200 a month, that's what the payment would be, you would collect $430,000. The purchase price was only $200,000. You collected more in interest, and that the banks created this. I don't claim to be the smartest person. I just follow what smart people do, what smart money does. So now I'm selling some of this land on 30-year mortgages.
That's interesting. So you're truly selling them. You're not just doing sub 2 with balloon payments or anything.
I have some sellers that are financing me, sometimes 0% interest, sometimes 4% interest. I have sellers that give me balloon payments. I try and get at least 10 years though, but I never give my buyers balloon payments. That's just asking for someone to fail.
Okay, that's interesting. So now are you doing this just in Florida, or do you do it nationwide, or what areas do you do?
I started in Colorado Springs. That's where I was stationed. I was stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado. The first land deal I did was in Palmer Lake, Colorado. It was in my own backyard. It was 45 minutes away. I bought that one for $285. And I sold it to a realtor for $5,000. I flipped it to a realtor the next day.
Wait a minute. So you got it for $285 and went to $5,000?
Yeah, it was actually, and she sold it for way more than that. She lowballed me. But here's the thing. I was desperate. I was out of money. I was an Army officer. You cannot have, I could not have problems with paying my bills as an Army officer. I was in debt. I was barely getting by. And it's in the military, you sometimes have secret clearances and top secret. If you get behind on your bills, you lose that. So that $5,000 was a breath of fresh air for me. But yeah, I bought it for $285. The land was not buildable. It was garbage land. The owner of the land that sold it to me, he was several years behind on his tax payments. He's like, just buy it for me for $285. That was really just what he owed on taxes. So I got a contract with him. I called a real estate agent because I didn't know what it was worth. She told me what she thought it was worth, about $10,000. And she made me an offer on the spot. And I was like, well, actually, wasn't on the spot. It was a couple minutes later. But I was like, I'll take it. So, and then it just kept going and going. So to answer your original question, I started in Colorado. And then I moved into Florida as well because my father was looking for something to do. And we started buying and selling land in Florida. Most of that was quick cash flips or assignment of contract, where we get the land under contract, just like a house, and just assign it to a cash buyer. Then we got into Arizona and Pennsylvania. Actually, I've got 3 notes in Pennsylvania right now. I just got a code violation notice on one of them. and I want to talk more about those. But yeah, it's turned into, I think, 8 states now.
Nice. So now you said you're mailing letters to tax delinquent, right?
Yeah. So I started with tax delinquent lists, like anybody that was behind on taxes. And then I was like, okay, what if they're out of state and behind on taxes? So I mail that list. And you run out of those niche lists very small. Another one that's working very well for us is code violation. The code violation list, we're buying a ton of properties, but again, a very small list. And how could there be a code violation on land? High weeds, trash, illegal structures, containers, connexes. Like, counties don't like this. So we get a list of those people, mail them, and then we run out of those. So we started literally mailing all the landowners in areas where land is selling, because that's the area where there's the demand at. So, and yes, we mail them an actual purchase agreement. We call it the land offer letter.
Oh, nice. So what? So you're actually mailing them an offer agreement with the price and everything on it?
Exactly. We call it the LOL, because every time we get one signed back, we laugh out loud because we just got a smoking hot deal. I've actually been triple split testing this exact letter against postcards, neutral letters, and it is by far working better than anything else. And I'll give that to your Eat, Sleep, Invest audience if they want to go to thelandsharks.com/LOL.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. That's interesting. When you're printing these, right, you have a price on it. I'm guessing the price is unique for each lot, or is it all the same?
It's pretty easy to do it. We focus down in micro. So real estate's very micro, as you know. You know, one side of this tracks is different from the other. One neighborhood across the canal can be a little bit different from the other. So we try and focus on neighborhoods where we see solds. We'll click on all the solds, and we're using the free sources like Redfin, Zillow. We click on them. We want to know 3 things: what the land sold for, how big is it, like square foot or acres, and who sold the land, who it was listed by, that's the listing agent, who it was bought by. Those are your key players. I mean, this is a ninja trick. Like, it took me years to figure this out. Those guys and girls that are selling that land are your most valuable resource. I said we did deal in Indiana, Pennsylvania. Guess who we call? The land specialist realtor that's selling all the land out there. And they're going to tell us, like, A through E, those streets have electric and water at the lot line, but F Street, no, you got to avoid those. Like, those have no sewer, no water, no electric, and they're like $25,000 less.
You know what? That's smart too, because like, I don't do anything in land. So I'm always curious about this. And you're right. You get the land and you got to sell it. That's a really smart way to find out what agent to use. The one that's selling all the land. They know it, because all agents will probably tell you to list it, but they don't know how to really deal with land. 'Cause I'm sure it's a lot different than single families.
Yeah. I mean, it's different because the sellers are completely unemotional about it. Like, they're not attached to it. It's different because there's a lot less moving parts. You know, we have an inspection period for a piece of land. If we're going to sign the contract, like, we can send 150 people by there over a 3-day period, rather than a house where when I wholesaled houses, like, I had to talk to the seller. I had to send them to Chili's for an hour. And I had to tell them, like, listen, there's going to be 1 million people walking through here. Like, well, what are you doing? We had to explain the process. And sometimes the sellers just would not. They're like, heck no. Like, I want you to buy the house, or I don't want the neighbor knowing that I'm selling the house.
So you get these properties. Now you're talking about code violations, things like that. What if you buy a property and then you get some code violations coming after that? Like, you figure you buy this property and then people are dumping tires.
Yeah. So I've had 2 of those issues now at this point. One issue was a piece of land that I had sold, and the guy moved a ton of stuff on it. It was out in Colorado. He moved like containers and storage and trucks and cars and boats. And like, the city was literally told me that they subpoenaed, like, they told me I needed to show up in court. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and I looked, and the buyer only owed me like $4,000, and he had paid, like, I don't know, almost like $15,000 already. So I told my team, I was like, transfer the land, get it out of my name, because, like, I need to go to court now. So I went to court, pled not guilty. I was like, listen, I don't have anything to do with this land anymore. I transferred it. Here's the document. He was paying me. And the city made me pay all the fines. It was like $480. They said, well, you owned it at that time. And I was like, golly, like, stupid me. I should have told that buyer, you pay me back or I'm not transferring the land. So there's one mistake I made right there. I have another piece in Pennsylvania right now We actually bought 3 parcels for $1,000, and we sold all 3. One for 28 grand on payments, another one for 12,000 on payments, another one for like 6,000 on payments. Well, the one we sold for 28 grand had a condemned house on it. Like, we just looked at it as land. We sold it for the land value. Well, the buyers now moved into this house, and like the code violation guy is so cool. Like, he calls and says, yep, he's here. They said he's not authorized to be there. So they're going to like literally arrest him, and we're probably going to take the land back. So those are like, I've done over 350 land deals. Those are my 2 biggest problems I've had with land.
So when you're buying these, you're keeping them in your name while you're financing them?
Yep. So there's 2 ways I do it. One, I will sell it on a contract for deed. They've agreed to pay me a monthly payment for this many years until it's paid off. Then I have 60 days to transfer the deed out of my corporation to whatever name they want it in or whatever address. The other way is if a real estate agent sells it for me, I get at least a $5,000 down payment, and we do the general closing through like a title insurance company. I have to transfer they don't do contract for deeds like most of the time. Some states maybe. But then I'll just be the bank. I'll have a deed of trust, a promissory note, or a mortgage, whatever state I'm in. That's my lien. I'm the first lien holder. I'm in the first lien holder position. So if they don't pay, I have to go through a foreclosure.
Okay. Do you ever have to do that?
I've never had to do a foreclosure. I've never had to take one back. And I've only been doing this since 2016. So I'm still new at this, you know, I'm still gaining traction. We have roughly 69 land deals paying us money every month. But I have had to take land back that was on contract for deed. And what I realized, if I take less than $5,000 for those deals for a down payment, I usually take 1 out of every 12 of those back, is what my numbers are showing over the last several years. So 1 out of 12, like we just took one back a couple months ago. The guy had paid almost like $4,800 in payments plus his $1,000 down payment. And he was just like, look, I'm not moving there anymore. You can have the land back. Another guy, like I was like, look, I'll give you $400 if you give me that land back. So some I'll try and buy back.
So let me get this straight. You send out the letter, right? And it has obviously like a lower number that's no brainer that you would buy it for. Did these people call you up, or how do they respond to the letter? Call you?
Yeah, there's multiple ways. Sometimes they'll call me just to cuss me out and tell me how bad their day is going because they don't appreciate my lowball offer. Sometimes they'll say, are you serious? Like, is this a scam? Because I offer too much sometimes. Like, these things happen. Like, when I'm sending out so many of these, I'll offer too much. Sometimes they'll just sign it and fax it back. Believe it or not, I have a fax number. I use myfax.com, and people do fax these back. Sometimes they'll text it to our office, like literally text us a picture of it signed. Sometimes they'll snail mail it. Sometimes they'll sign it and scan it and email it. Like, we give them multiple ways. We probably give them too many ways, honestly. So if you're listening to this and you don't like a bunch of phone calls, take the number off of there. Like, I've got some students in the Land Sharks who are like, I can't take phone calls. Like, I work literally in a secure environment. Like, I've got some military guys. Like, I work in a basement all day. If I get a phone call, I'm fired. So they took their phone number off and they get them emailed back. So they're like in there on their computer, and like they're looking at land deals and like, yep, I can pay that. So they'll email the seller back and say, let's do it.
That's crazy. So then, okay, so they email you back or sign it and send it, text it, whatever they do. What are you doing then? Is your due diligence like that? Like, cause it's not a house. You don't really have to do an inspection on like structure, things like that. But I'm sure you still have to check some things, right?
Yeah, Brian, for the most part, my due diligence is like, I want to see like, okay, is there access? Can we get to this land? Because I've bought a lot of landlocked property and there's money in it, but like sometimes it's just easier to avoid those now that I've kind of gotten rolling. My first several were landlocked property. So I'll do some due diligence. I really want to make sure that what I'm buying it for guarantees that I'll make money. And a lot of people worry like, what if I get stuck with the land? Well, I will keep that thing under contract, my due diligence period or my inspection period, and market that purchase agreement until I find my buyer. And then I'll align that buyer up with either a down payment or a non-refundable earnest money deposit, and then I'll purchase it from the seller.
Oh, that makes sense.
Really, okay, the due diligence is I want to make sure that I can make money on the deal.
Right. So you pretty much have, it's not like a 14-day contingency. You have a long due diligence time frame on there.
I'm using a letter right now that I'll send out. I'm testing this out, and I say 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, cool.
Some sellers will cross that out and put the exact date they want to close. Like I used to allow people to counteroffer. Well, that was just asking them to say a higher price. So I took that off because they were all counteroffering. Sometimes they counteroffer with a bird finger, but it's a numbers game. It goes back to when I used to have to find a date to the dance in 6th grade. I knew if I asked 6 girls, I'd get at least one to say yes. So I'd start with the prettiest ones first. By the time, so it's a numbers game in real estate as well. 99 out of 100 people do not need my low discount offer, just like in houses, same thing.
Do you have any stats? Like, do you know how many mailers you got to send on average to get a deal?
Yeah, I'm a little over 800 right now in some of my areas. Those are more in demand areas. I'm in another area where it's like I can send out about 750, believe it or not, before COVID. In some of my areas, I can send out 200 and get a land deal. However, those spreads weren't as big. The area where I'm sending like 800 plus, those are usually like $15,000 spreads, like where there's plenty of meat on the bone.
So that's like $500 to $800 per deal. That's not bad.
Exactly. 800 to make 10,000. It's a pretty good return on investment.
So now you get this land locked up, right? Number one, you can use an agent like you're talking about, which is easy. You don't have to do anything. The ones you're selling without an agent, how do you find the buyers?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm moving more out of that model. It was great. It was great for building the passive income. I was buying land at pennies on the dollar. Honestly, I've gotten probably land for free almost 9 times now at this point. But that was like further out in the country or like literally in the desert in the middle of nowhere of Arizona. But how I found those buyers was I would put it on Craigslist. Facebook. My dad has sold 50 parcels of land on Facebook using Facebook buy-sell groups, Facebook Marketplace. But there's a lot of work involved with that. There's a lot of tire kickers, and you build your buyers list very well because they're either going to buy or go on my buyers list, one or the other, most of the time. Signs have worked very, very well. I got a piece of land under contract from a bank one time. The land was worth like $85,000 to $100,000. It was worth anywhere from $85,000 to $100,000. This was in 2017 timeframe, and I got the land under contract for $25,000, and I was freaking out. This is the first time I've ever bought from a bank, and I had a purchase agreement, an assignable purchase agreement. I had 30 days to come up with $25,000 or sign that contract, and I didn't sleep that night. It was a Friday evening, and I went on a Saturday morning and I got 33 bandit signs, like the signs that say we buy houses. Like I spun those around and wrote with a big black, I had a marker in here, a big black Magnum Sharpie marker that said 44 acres, 38K, and my phone number. This land was right next to Schriever Air Force Base in Colorado Springs. I put those signs out like crazy. The first call was someone cussing me out because I put it on their land. The second call, I braced for impact. I think I only had like 12 signs up at that point. And this sweet Texan couple, like they had just sold their ranch in Texas is what they said. And he's like, look, we'll do the deal for $38,000. We met on the side of the road. He looked at the land. And the next day I got a higher offer for $14,000 over what he had offered. And I was only asking for $38,000 because I had no confidence. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was like my 7th land deal. Like I called that Texas man. I was like, look, I know we shook on it. I feel really bad about this, but I got a higher offer. I was wondering if I can make it better. I'll give you $7,000 because I got $14,000 higher than what you offered. I'll give you half of that just to walk away from this. And we didn't have an agreement other than the handshake. And he was like, no, we agreed. And I was like, I felt terrible. I was like, fine, let's just do it. Like I was mad because that would have changed my life back then. I like that extra money. And I ended up getting a $13,000 assignment fee on that deal, but it was through signs. Like, come on. And I'm so glad I honored my word because that's nothing compared to what I've made in this business so far.
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny you bring that up too, because anyone listening to, especially when you're newer in the game, your word is so important.
Oh yeah, I would have destroyed it. I would have never felt right about that. There's certain little promises that I've made, like it was to tithe. I used to tithe. I tithed on 10% of my gross back then. And, I fell away from that and I'm getting back to it. But like those little promises that you make, like they will haunt you. Like many, many things like that. And I'm just glad that one decision, that one promise I made, like continue to do it because I've been blessed so much from it.
Yeah. That's an important thing because a lot of people are just looking at today and reputation and everything too. And it'll just eat you. Do you help people with land too? Like people that want to get into land?
I teach people how to do this. I started about 2.5 years ago. I started I had a real estate meetup in Colorado Springs. It's still going. Dan and Colin still run it out there at Pikes Perk in Colorado Springs. But I was literally teaching people one-on-one. I'd go to coffee with so many people and I'd have lunch, and a lot of them weren't really doing much with it. And I was like, what the heck? This changed my life. And I found a coach, Tom Kroll with Wholesaling Inc., which I'm one of Wholesaling Inc.'s coaches now. But he showed me, he's like, look, they're not doing anything because you're doing it for free. They don't value it. So I started charging people the one-on-one coach. Then I built this community called the Land Sharks. And we literally have the steps broken out on video format. It shows you each day, here's the step to take today to build small wins, find that market, how to price that market, how to send letters, how to lock them up, and we literally have so many people making fortunes with land because everyone's avoiding it. There's no competition.
Who's a good, I don't want to say a good person, a good audience, or who's a good fit for getting into land? What type of person have you seen does really well?
I have a lot of veterans and military members that do this while they're stationed overseas, all over the country. I have a lot of people that come from the house flipping industry that just are sick of that, and it's just less moving parts. But here's the thing, it's land, basically it's a good marriage. You can use a lot of the same systems, so many ways to get land deals. You can talk to other house wholesalers that are just ignoring the land leads. They're paying good money for these leads and they're not doing anything with it. I also have police officers that join this. Single mother of 4 in New Jersey just did her 5th land deal. She knew nothing about real estate, and her 5th land deal got her $20,000 in net profit. And she's got about $1,100 a month coming in from payments. Yeah,
that's crazy too, because we do pay-per lead marketing for single family homes. And when the land leads come in, we let people refund them and they just go to waste. Yeah, it's okay, yeah, there's real money to be made there.
Wow. Let's talk about those land leads.
Yeah, we definitely will. Yeah, so anyone doing this game though, you come across, because anyone doing Google pay-per-click and Facebook ads, things like that, you're going to get the people. We see mobile homes and vacant land come in, and most people discard them. So maybe it's worth a conversation with Brent or hook up with his coaching. Get an extra avenue, because it's always good to have different disposition ways to dispo properties.
We bought some land from a guy and he had 3 mobile homes. He gave it was 2. I'm confusing a seller. He had 2 mobile homes we bought for $1,000 from him. And we just did the same strategy. We sold one for $12,000 and I think the other one for $24,000 on payments. We got $1,000 each for each of them. And those are notes now too that come in every month. It's nuts. What you can, seller financing, people are always looking how much is it going to cost me each month? It's the same thing with the land.
Yeah, but it's seller financing too, because most people can't get a loan for land, right?
You're right. The banks are not loaning on this land, and it's given us a lot of opportunity because these sellers know that they've got to do 2 things: discount the land for us, or they need to be the bank. And a lot of times we can get principal payments for that piece of land. What do I mean by that? We can pay 0% interest. So if every month that we pay $500 a month, the land goes down, the balance goes down $500. We just have to find another buyer that can pay us $600 or $700 a month and charge them 12% interest. So now we've got a 0% interest loan for $30,000 over here that goes down $500 a month. And then we sell it to, Bob the buyer for $60,000, what it's worth, at 12% interest, and his payments $800 a month. Some of those loans, some of those deals, we'll make, I'm looking at one on my board right here, $102,000, 0 money out of our pocket.
Now, do you ever have to go out to the properties?
I used to. I used to go and look at them, and I started falling in love with the land, and I kept coming home, and I was like, man, well, honey, we could, Emily, we could put a cabin on this piece of land. And then finally she's like, how many cabins do we need? And I stopped going and looking, and I started sending people the land specialist realtor. And that saved me a lot of time.
What type of land are you seeing most come in? Is it big lots of like wooded land? Or are you seeing people selling lots in nice neighborhoods? Like, did you just build a house on?
It's all the above. Like we were just looking at a piece of land, 58 acres in Maryland with timber on it that we can sell to a timber company. We're buying 16 lots in Hawaii. I got a buildable lot. I'm working right now in Florida personally. It's all over the place.
How much time do you need for someone thinking about getting into land? How much time do they need to set aside? What kind of commitment?
When I was building my business, I was working for the military like 12, 13 hours a day. I was putting in about 2 hours a day to really get this off the ground. I wish I could have done more, but I just had to be hyper focused with my time. So anywhere from 2 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, you can really have a business, that in 5 years, you could be making 22, 32,000. Like we brought in 24,000. I'm looking at my board, 24,000 last month in payments.
That's pretty huge. How much do people need to start, like with mailers? What do you recommend? And whatever expenses they'd have.
I see land sharks in my community. They can get started for about 200 to 300 letters a week. That really kind of gets like I want anybody listening to this to picture the old farmhouse pump. Those red pumps, like you pump them, air's coming out, and eventually, like you pumping it up, the air goes out and the water starts trickling out. And then the water finally starts to flow. It takes a lot to get that deal flow to go through. But once you get it going, you can slow down on that pump a little bit or pay someone else to pump it. But it's just getting it primed. It's getting the airplane off the ground. It takes the most energy.
Gotcha. And that makes total sense. If someone wants to get a hold of you, like if someone wants to find out more about this, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, you can head to thelandsharks.com. Schedule a call, or every day I do a TikTok video. Brent L. Bowers, yes, the L stands for land. Brent L. Bowers 1. I do a video on TikTok, how to make money with land.
Nice. So, hey, everyone listening, go check that out if you're interested. And anyone watching this in Flip Club, drop your comments below too. We'll have Brent answer them there. Hey, thanks for coming on, Brent. We appreciate you.
Nice meeting you, Brian. God bless, man.
Hey, you too, man. Thanks. Hey, anybody looking for leads too, check out motivatedleads.com. We're always having a lot of people looking to sell houses. Maybe we'll start trying to find some land stuff in the future here. Thanks, Brent.